Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Smith. I'm the director of steady.org. We welcome you to the webinar today and want to make sure that you can hear that we're broadcasting. And so if you don't mind, in the chat box, tell us what your favorite Christmas gift that you hope to get. Now, here's my favorite gift that I've received. Lisa from our office has already given us our office gifts, and this is it's called a redneck back scratcher. It says it's the best, or at least it's the biggest back scratcher on the planet. And let me tell you, I just love it. So it's really good, and I enjoy that. So if you can hear me and can participate, we want to make sure that you can hear us. And so let's see if I can see the chat. So if you're in the chat, if you don't mind letting us know that you can hear me and tell us your favorite Christmas gift. So Jess, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we're good to go.
Good. All right. So at least we know that that's the case. I can't see the chat for some reason, but I can see the question and answer. So as long as we're broadcasting and you can see us, we'll keep going. What I'm going to do here is I might pause or at least reduce the video so we can see, but I just wanted you to see who you're talking to here today. Jessica's online, and we also have Kelley's online. Sorry. And so as we move along, we will try to answer your questions and talk about what needs to be done. As I mentioned, my name is Jeffrey Smith. I'm the director of steady.org. I was also the founding director of the Substitute Teaching Institute at Utah State University. Back in the 90s, we started the institute, and we received a U.S. Department of Education grant that lasted a number of years, and we studied substitute teaching. I was a principal investigator on the research project called Step In. We studied substitute teaching nationwide and what school districts are doing to train, and we really focused on how we can improve the learning when the permanent teacher's out of the classroom. So that's where we got started. We became steady.org about 10 years ago and under license by the university, but we've still continued the research and continued providing training to substitute teachers as well as to district personnel on the management of substitute teaching. We'll talk a little bit about that. But Kelley Stone is on with us, and she'll be talking and helping answer questions as well. And she'll be a great contact in the future as we move forward. And if you have any questions with that, Jessica's on board also. We have several out of the office today, so Jessica might be in and out as she answers phones and works with people online. So that's what's happening with her, and we're glad that they're with us here today. Let's talk a little bit about the impact of little or no training. We have found that with no training or little training, it really increases the complaints registered against substitute teaching. We had a district once that had over 700 complaints a year, that they were severe enough that the HR office had to get involved with those complaints. So if you take 180 days into 700 complaints, that's 2 or 3 a day. So it was consuming quite a bit of time. When they implemented the training, it really dropped it down. It really dropped it down. In fact, one year they had less than 35 complaints. And so that's a significant drop by just implementing training. It also increases the time it takes to register to get substitute teachers into the classroom. I'm going to try this, see if I can reduce this. So there we go. You can see the slides a little easier. All right. So it does increase the time it takes to process the applications. If you can provide training or have substitute teachers take the training prior to employment, it really helps just move that right quickly through the application process and get him into the classroom. So with little or no training also increases the type 1 and type 2 errors in hiring. Type 1 error is hiring somebody that perhaps you shouldn't have hired. That's a type one. You've made a mistake as far as you brought somebody into the classroom that wouldn't do well with students and isn't a good fit for the schools. And so that's a type one error. Type two error is you've passed over somebody who would do very well in the classroom, but you didn't catch them in your screening process. You actually screened them out. And so those two type errors increases by little or no training, or in the reverse, by offering training, it helps eliminate those who maybe are looking for a quick buck or just want to babysit, read a book at the back of the room. So by offering training, we can eliminate those things. Also, it decreases, little or no training decreases the ability to set expectations. How do you expect this individuals to know what you expect of them if they haven't been trained? And so you can set a higher expectation. You can set what you expect in their behavior. You know, if you say that we accept anybody, that we will, if you can fog a mirror, we need you, we're so short, we take anybody. Well, then those people who are well educated won't want to apply because they know that anybody, you hire anybody. So they're broadcasting to their friends when they say, oh, I'm substitute teaching. Oh, you don't have a degree, you don't have any other skills, you could you can't get another job, that's why you're substitute teaching. No, so setting expectations and wanting to set your standards high really shows that you want the right kind of people in the classroom, and it helps recruit. So by providing training, it reduces that. Also, student achievement. Little or no training really impacts student achievement. If the permanent teacher's out of the classroom at, say, 8%, we know it's usually a lot higher than that, but if it's 8%, that means it's one full year of a child's K-12 education is taught by a substitute teacher. And so student achievement is impacted at 8% teacher absenteeism. And so if we can improve, say, the on-task behavior of students just 50% while the permanent teacher's out of the classroom, we've had 100% or 4% across the board improvement in student learning. There isn't many things that we could do that would have a 4% measurable impact on student achievement. So by offering training or requiring training is a significant way to improve the learning when the permanent teacher's out of the classroom. So we're big into training. We see the value of it. In fact, we have seen that when a district has either raised their pay in order to recruit more substitute teachers, that hasn't been as effective. Same with lowering their requirements hasn't been as effective as offering training. Training tends to be the common denominator or common trait of a successful recruiting program. So you're letting people know we want you, we value you, and we'll make sure that you are very competent and are trained prior to entering the classroom. And that's what you want. Now let's talk a minute about training. What does that mean? At the university, you know, we usually are educators. We educate, and hopefully people will make proper choices based on that education. So early on, we were looking at, do we train or do we educate? We decided to take out, not reduce the research, but instead of teaching the research right off the bat, we taught the skills that they need to in order to be successful. We backed it up with the research and those successful programs, but we focus specifically on training. It's a skill, things that they can practice that they can do very well in the classroom. For example, the skill level of a substitute teacher, number one is classroom management. That's what students want. I mean, that's what substitutes want. They want to make sure that they can manage a class. That's what administrators want. So that's the biggest fear, is being able to, or the biggest concern that they want to overcome is the ability to maintain classroom control. Teaching strategies. You know, when we asked students, surveyed students what they expected or wanted out of their substitutes, first thing was, oh, I want to make sure that we have a free day and party on. We have a sub. Well, after they got past that, they said, we don't want to get behind. We know that we'll have to work twice as hard when the permanent teacher gets back. So we'd rather have good lessons so we can continue the learning. So it was really teaching strategies that we wanted to make sure substitute teachers knew how to pick up a lesson plan, how to understand it, and how to implement. What are the different teaching strategies? How would you use a different strategy based on what the permanent teacher has asked? And so if a substitute knows how to implement those lesson plans, it reduces classroom management, but it also implements the learning and helps it continue. And we found that through training, often the permanent teachers see a big difference in the way that their lesson plans are implemented, and that they have to lead more competent lesson plans. And so they're relying more and more on that if training is offered. And so we talk quite a bit about teaching strategies and what they need to know. Being prepared and professional. When we surveyed permanent administrators and asked, what are your concerns? What would you like? And they said, it's really a substitute acting and being a professional, part of the professional staff. So they act like a teacher, they dress like a teacher, they show up plenty early, and they're ready to teach, they're ready to engage the students. And so being prepared and professional. And so that's a component that we want to talk about, that we do talk about in the training. Students with special needs. Now, we want to make sure if an individual hasn't had much exposure with students with special needs, they know how to work with those, whether they're included in the regular classroom or if it's a classroom by itself and with a paraeducator. And so we want to make sure that substitute teachers are very comfortable in taking on special ed assignments. And without the training, they don't. But with the training, they're willing to say, yeah, that sounds good. 5 students over 35, I'll do that every day of the week. And so it does encourage individuals to take on special ed assignments. And then the appropriate use of fill-in activities. When we asked permanent teachers who their favorite substitute teacher was and why, it was Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, because they had a bag of tricks. They had resources that they could pull at a moment's notice. If they showed up to the classroom and there were no lesson plans, they could immediately implement something they had in their repertoire, and they could get that started and work with a teacher next door to find out what they should be teaching, or that type of thing. Or if a student finishes early, what do you do with them? Well, here's some early finisher activities, and so students know what to do to keep themselves busy. Or 5 minutes before the bell rings, could be an attorney for a substitute teacher who is not prepared. Well, there are 5-minute fillers, 10-minute fillers, half-day fillers, and so forth, so they can fill up those times as a whole class. Be productive, but yet keep those students engaged until the time it is that they dismiss. So these are the very components that we talk about and train in with substitute teachers. Also, the orientation is very, very important with district-specific information, the policies, practices, and procedures of a district. And so we want to make sure that they receive that as well. Now, part of the SubSkills package, the online course that we offer, can have district-specific content, your content that only your substitute teachers would see based on this online training that we have. And we can work with client districts, those districts who require SubSkills prior to employment. We can definitely upload district-specific content, make that available. And then when they come and see you, they've already gone through the policy manual. They can sign off that they're aware and can have completed that. So that's the training and the orientation. Training opportunities are pre-employment. We think this is the most valuable. One of the most valuable is it helps you, if you set the expectations prior to employment, that we require those who don't have a teaching degree to be well trained, and here's training solution for you. You can take it online and complete it prior to picking up an application. Substitute teacher is investing in their education and their training. They can do it quite quickly. Sometimes it is intended, they just want to look and kick tires and they don't know if they want to come in and apply, and that's a pretty big commitment. But if they can see that on your website that there's training available, they can take that even though it's at their own expense. They can take a look at that, and the training is not only instructive, but it's very motivational. They can see themselves doing this in the classroom. And so they say, yeah, I can do this. This is very good. So pre-employment training prior to picking up an application is a good way to have those who don't have a teaching degree receive their training. Post-employment pre-classroom. So this is once you've hired them, but they haven't been in the classroom. This is a training opportunity. It could be done there. It could be help. This is where many districts do the orientation if they want to bring them in and have an orientation after they've received the training online. So that's post-employment, pre-classroom. And then ongoing throughout the year, as well as on an annual basis, they should have refresher courses. We expect a lot out of our permanent teachers. We should out of our substitute teachers. We've seen the districts, as I mentioned earlier, if they have set high expectations, people will rise to those expectations. Even though you might feel like you'll reduce the number of applicants, the applicants that you get will actually be more competent and will be willing to work more, and you'll be screening fewer and keeping the majority of those who come in. So it's a win-win for the substitute as well as for the school district. Steps of a substitute teacher, as I mentioned, the pre-employment, they're kicking tires. They want to see if it's for them. They've heard about substitute teaching. They know what they did with substitutes when they were younger, but they want to make sure that if it's something they want. So they're investigating. And so we want to make sure that they're validated in those kind of things. Now, employment, they want to be validated, they want to be supported and build skills, and they need specific help. So training addresses these needs of a substitute teacher, of an individual who is applying to become a substitute. We want to be able to support them. Now, research, we did some step-in research. See, it's a self-efficacy study. Self-efficacy means that my belief in my ability. We could, in research, you can actually have an observer go out and observe a teacher. That's very time-consuming and costly, so it's very prohibitive on a grand scale. But self-efficacy is also linked. The higher one believes in their ability, the better they perform in the classroom. And so that's what the studies that we conducted at Utah State with the classroom management construct and self-efficacy. You can see that before they entered the classroom and before they received the training, they had, this is where they ranked themselves. After the training, it increased their self-confidence quite a little bit. After they entered the classroom for a week, it did drop. You would expect that, but it did not drop near as much as those who didn't have training. In fact, this is almost just opposite. If you flip it upside down, is what those who, because before training, everybody's the same. After the training, they often, if they haven't had any training and enter the classroom, boy, their confidence just drops significantly. And so having that training often increases their longevity. Often a substitute who has no training walks into the classroom and then walks out and never comes back. And so this really eliminates that. It gives them the confidence even prior. It does, after the training, it does give them confidence to go into the classroom and implement skills that they've learned. Now, the SubSkills Online Training Course improves substitute teacher self-efficacy. We've seen that also post-training mentoring helps substitute teachers maintain a high level of self-efficacy. So ongoing support and ongoing refreshers is important to continue that learning. Often they forget things, or they narrow down to one or two teaching strategies and they forget that there's others that would help them if they would just increase their horizon. Some things you need to know. In our research, we found that in most districts, this is what the survey of permanent teachers, those who graduated in a teaching college, 62% of certified teachers felt unprepared to enter the classroom. And so non-certified substitute teachers, you could imagine that they don't, it's a lot higher than that. So 62% of those certified, meaning they've graduated from a teacher college, teacher program, 62% still feel very unprepared before they're entering the classroom as a permanent teacher. So substitute teachers are a lot more, lack that confidence. Now, we have also found that 42% of your substitute teachers in your district want to continue as a substitute teacher, which is pretty high compared to what we were expecting. Also, another 40% want a permanent position in your district. So you add those two together, 82% of those individuals in your subpool want to stay with your district. That's huge. So often we think that substitutes are here today and gone tomorrow. Well, this research shows that 82% of substitute teachers who are in your current pool want to stay within your district. So investing or requiring training really increases that pool and will have an impact on them. Let's talk about what the SubSkills Online Training Course actually includes. This is an 8-hour online course. It's reviewing classroom management, teaching strategies, professionalism, special education, legal and educational issues. We've talked a lot about this. And also it has a number of fill-in activities to help them start their building their sub-pack, and so they can fill that. 8 to 10 hours is often a lot less time than other online training programs, but because we've learned exactly what we need to talk about. We know it by research what's effective and what isn't effective. And so by going from no training to 8 to 10 hours is very significant. You could go longer than that, but not have as much impact as we do with the SubSkills Online Training Course. There's a sub-assessment. So there are those 5 components, and each component has 4 attempts. So when they finish a section, say classroom management, they have 4 attempts to pass the assessment. Often we have people who think, oh, I'm just going to jump right to the assessment and click through it. Well, you can't click through it and guess your way through. And so you have to understand the material. It's quizzing and teaching and assessing those things, the principles and skills that are taught. We want to know if they understand those and can implement those, and that's what the assessment is. And so they have up to 4 attempts, so they have plenty of chances. As long as they don't try to guess their way through, they have plenty of chances of learning the material and then taking the assessment. District-specific content I mentioned for those districts who require SubSkills training course. They can actually, we can upload content specific for them. That's a great way to combine both the orientation and the skills training. Then they get a sub-diploma. This shows we recommend an 85% passing score. A district can set whatever the passing score they want. But an 85% for most individual can, once they study the material, can score at least 85% composite score in the sub-assessment. And then move on from there. We just, this last month, we received approval from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and the SubSkills Online Training Course, this very course, has been approved statewide for all substitute teachers to take in order to be, they require a training program in order to receive their 3-year short-term substitute teacher license in Wisconsin. And this SubSkills course is actually just was approved. They went through their rigorous approval process. They had their staff take the course and approved it for approval on their website. So the Wisconsin, on the website of the Department of Public Instruction under the substitute license, we're listed with a link to the site so they can take the training there. Also, an individual who takes the SubSkills course receives ongoing SubSuggestions newsletter. Jessica does a very good job as far as teaching and training and providing tips and suggestions and supporting the learning that they learned in the SubSkills course. And this goes for as long as they substitute teach. So it's an ongoing value. They're also invited, if they pass the sub-assessment with an 85%, they're personally invited to participate in a private Facebook support group. And this group is really kind of fun because they're on there. They've all taken the training. They're all active substitute teachers. They said, this happened to me today. And somebody say, well, remember you learned this in the training. Did you try this? Oh, yeah. So they support each other. They said, oh, here's a great filler activity that I learned today, and share it with everybody. So it's a great support group and fun interaction. We have staff members who help facilitate that, but most of the discussion are those substitute teachers who are participating in it and sharing and supporting each other, which is very good. They have that. Also, most importantly, we for the substitute teacher, we guarantee a job. If they complete the SubSkills course at 85%, And as long as they pass all the other requirements and apply to become a substitute teacher and are denied, we'll refund the cost of the training. We feel very confident that they can enter the classroom and be successful with the students if they pass the SubSkills course. And as long as they meet all the other requirements, we'll guarantee that they get a job, or we'll refund the money that they have with the training course. So that's the SubSkills Online Training Course, made easy, if you will. Here are the options. The SubSkills course for a substitute is $39.95. Option A is it's all totally online. So they log on, they see they hear the material presented. They also can read the material online. They can download. There's some handouts that they download, but that's totally online. They can start immediately. They can use it anytime they want to, day or night, and get through the training. But that's option A. Option B is the handbook. Some substitute teachers feel very uncomfortable on the computer, but they'd rather have the handbook. So option B is the handbook. We drop ship that right to them, and they get it within several days. They can study the material. Same material is just presented in the handbook, and then they come online and take the assessment. So that's option B. So A and B are the same. It's just a different way of delivering it. Premium package are those two together. Some want the online resources because they like to learn that way, but yet they also want the handbook to be able to take with them in the classroom and the supporting material that's in it. And so that's what option B, the premium package is. The ultimate package is the premium package, meaning option A and option B. Plus, it has 3 of the refresher courses. It has advanced classroom management. It goes deeper into how to develop skills in classroom management. It has advanced teaching strategies. It goes more into depth in teaching strategies and supports what they learn. It also has special education, another section on special education, and it's really good. That's a very good course. A lot of districts just buy that course, the special education, and run their existing sub-pool through that course to encourage them to take on special ed assignments. So that's what the ultimate package is, and they can have access to that. There's the handbook. We talked about that. So that's option B. Also, many districts like to train substitute teachers, and we'd love to train live substitute train as a live training with substitute teachers. It's a lot of fun. We have a trainer's manual. You can reach out to Kelley and ask for a copy of the trainer's manual and use the handbook to train. Each individual would get a handbook, and so they're teaching each other in the handbook and the skills and suggestion. There's no PowerPoint in the live training. We don't expect a substitute teacher to use PowerPoint in their training, so we don't use that in our training. But it's very much like a live classroom. We use the gestures, the hand raising to get the students' attentions. We use a starter activity. We use managing by wandering around. We use a carousel learning and cooperative learning groups and jigsaw learning. We use it all. And so they've seen what we expect them out of the classroom. So a district can implement that. We have a lot of districts who use the handbook and do the training. And so that's something that you could implement. We can help train your trainers and provide the sub-trainer manual to your trainers, and then the handbooks for each of your substitute teachers. Here's some websites of school districts who require training, and you can click on those and take a look at what they've listed and how they've listed it on their websites. Again, very successful and very effective way of recruiting substitute teachers is having the training right there on the website, so they can order it, they can take it, then they can pick up an application. The bottom link there is on our website, steady.org/wording. Some wording we recommend that you can use for your website to help recruit substitute teachers. And you might want to take a look at that. But here's some links. And again, on your slides, you're welcome to use that. We'll have the links on that. Where do we begin? At steady.org, .org/administrators. There's some information there. You can also email Kelley or call Kelley. She can give you a coupon code for your five substitute teachers to try it. Sometimes the sub manager or the HR director is too busy to evaluate it, and so we want you to give this to 5 substitutes to have them go through the training and give you some feedback. We found that that's a very effective way for someone to understand what the training is all about and be able to implement that and then get that on their website. Also, something else that we're doing, and we have a cohort group which started in the fall, and we'll be starting another one soon, but steady.org/academy. This is called the Fill Rate Academy. It is intended for district personnel, your HR office, your sub-callers, sub-trainers, your subcommittee, sub-task force that we encourage you to put together for those members. So if a district signs up, they have up to 5 people that can participate, and it's a great way to implement an effective management program. It goes not into just training substitute teachers, but we'll talk about recognition. We'll talk about recruiting. We'll go over your website. We'll do an audit of your website. We have the SWOT analysis of your district, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we'll go through that and also make surveys available. So we survey your permanent teachers, your administrators, your substitute teachers and staff, and then help you identify weak areas or strengths and what you can do to help those. So that's the Fill Rate Academy. We want to increase the fill rate in your district, but you're welcome to take a look at that. Also, I've talked way too much without letting Kelley or Jessica talk. I have noticed that there must be a lot of chats because I wish I could view the chat. For some reason, I can't call up my chat to see the questions, but I think you've been doing that. Kelley, are you on? Do you have, or Jessica, do you have any comments?
She's been helping me man the office today, so if you'll just change her to a panelist, then she can share her contact information. One question we got earlier is if we train paraprofessionals, and we do have a paraprofessional course for paraprofessionals or substitute paraprofessionals. So if you're interested in that, be sure to let us know. And that Fill Rate Academy really has been so successful. We've loved working with these districts on a more specific level.
Good. There, I think, sorry, Kelley, that now that you're there, you can come on and if you'd like.
Hello.
Okay, there you go. This is Kelley's picture. This is her contact information. What other comments do you have as we go through this that districts might want to know for staffing agencies?
There's just so much, so much that we do and cover, and I think you've gone through most of it here, but I imagine that there probably are some questions about it, and so I hope that you either reached out through the chat, where I have had access in the chat to answer a couple of questions. But if you have any more questions, please do give me a call, because or send me an email, whichever works best for you. But I do have lots of answers, and some things that I can send you from other things we've done. One of the questions that came on, which was a really good question, was having access to review it, and Jeff talked about that top 5, and that really is how we can allow you, some of your associates and or some of your substitutes, to take a look at the training and see what they think about it. And it's probably good to get feedback from different groups of people and different types of people. We feel really confident in the training, and that's why we're happy to give you that kind of access, because we know that the word back is going to be good. But if that's what you need to see it, that's what we want you to have. And I wouldn't expect you to have your substitutes doing this training if you haven't had, yourself or somebody in your organization look at it first. So by all means, let's work that out. There's lots of ways to implement it too. Somebody asked about the cost, and it's not a free course. A lot of work's gone into it, and we don't give this away for free, but we have a lot of ways that you can make it pay off for you to either pay it for your substitutes, or just have them pay for it up front. Nothing wrong with them investing in their own careers. So.
Good. All right.
If you don't mind, I'll jump in really quick. We had a question about how much time it takes for a district to per applicant. So when a district requires a training pre-employment, it takes very little attention because they'll just walk in with their sub-diploma saying, I've taken and paid for the training. I know I'm interested in substitute teaching. Then you process paperwork. Maybe, Jeff, you can go into a little more detail about how districts have rearranged their schedules to reduce that time.
Sure. If you take an application, then you have to wait for a training to come up, get them through a training, and then send them to, then get their background check and so forth. It could take 6 weeks in many cases. So by taking the training and putting it prior at their own time and at their own expense prior to an application process, then once they pick up an application, to get that fingerprinting done, get that processed, and get into the classroom could be very quick, very easily, and done very quickly. We've had a district when they implemented it that way, just saved them, I think, $59,000 a year just by rearranging that application process. And with the time that they would interview people that never would pan out, that was a concern. And so once they moved it prior to the application process, that eliminated that and the time that they saved with that. So yeah, that's a good way to do it prior to employment with that. I think it looks like you guys have been very active in answering the chat. We will post this. It's steady.org/webinars. We will send a link to you so you can review this, the webinar plus the handouts, and you have Kelley's contact information. We'd be glad to spend some time with you and your sub-task force, or you and others within your office, to help answer any questions and move on from there. Now, we hope that you enjoy your holiday season, and Merry Christmas to each of you. And I'll enjoy my my redneck back scratcher. So we appreciate your attendance here today, and hopefully we've answered your questions, and have a happy new year too. Hope to talk to you soon. Bye now.